to our 1-2 notes, simplifying polynomial expressions, continued. Today we're looking at the same learning target we had last time, in that I am learning to add, subtract, so check, we did that in our last set of notes, and today we're going to focus on multiplying polynomials. So I am learning to add, subtract, and multiply polynomials. Go ahead and put your name, that top right hand corner, and today's date. Remember, you can always push pause, copy down the title and our learning target, and push play when you're ready to go. So first things first, go ahead and jot down this table. It should look familiar. It's really similar to the one we had last time, where we have a column for our name and our rule. So remember, push pause, jot down the table, and when you're ready, hit play. So the first part we're going to be looking at is distributing a monomial. So mono means one, like to speak with a monotone means you speak with one tone, to a polynomial, which means more than one terms. So the rule for this one is, because we are distributing, we multiply the term outside parentheses to all terms inside parentheses. Hopefully your inside E looks a little bit better than mine. Let's try to fix that real quick. So inside parentheses. Now, because we're multiplying, there's a few rules we have to remember about multiplying terms. So when we multiply terms, we have to multiply coefficients, and we talked about that word last time. Coefficients is our number in front of our variables. And then we're going to add exponents. Of same variable. There we go. Now the second rule we're going to look at today is distributing and combining like terms. So this one has two steps. So the first step is to, once again, where we're distributing, multiply the term on the outside parentheses to all terms inside parentheses. Oh, it jumped on me. There we go. And then our second step is then combine like terms. And remember, the last video we talked about combining like terms is to add or subtract the coefficients of those with the exact same variables with the exact same exponents. So now that we have these rules, let's see them in action. So example 1. So EX1. And go ahead and write out your 5 parentheses x minus 6. So this is a distributive property example, because we just have one number on the outside of parentheses, and we're lucky because it's just a 5, so no variables. We don't have to worry about this part right now because there's no variables, exponents to worry about. It's just a 5. So now we just distribute our 5. We're going to do 5 times x, and this time I'm going to write it out the long way, but just to help us see it, but then we won't see it anymore. So then we're going to drop down our minus symbol, minus, and we're going to do our 5 times 6. I always like to say like this is showing the rainbow. You kind of got a little rainbow going on. And now we just multiply. 5 times x is 5x. Drop down your minus sign, and then 5 times 6 is 30. So 5x minus 30. And I realize we've seen this before, so if you feel pretty good about multiplying that number outside, you can go ahead and skip showing that step here. Example 2. Once again, we just have just a number on the outside, so we have 4 times 5m plus 5. So go ahead and write that down. And now we're going to distribute, which means we're going to multiply our 4 to everybody inside the parentheses. So 4 times 5m. So we're just going to multiply just the coefficients. So 4 times 5 is 20. And your m stays with it. So 4 times 5m is 20m. We're going to drop down our plus sign and do 4 times 5 is 20. And that's the whole answer to that one. We're all good. So we'll see another example. So example 3. Once again, we have just the number in front, so just 6. And then times 5x squared minus x minus 3. So go ahead and jot this down. Now, when we distribute this one, we're going to take the guy outside 6 and multiply it to everybody inside. So 6 times 5x squared is just 6 times 5, which is 30. And your x squared stays with it. And now 6 times, I'm going to say negative x, because pretend like it's a negative 1 there. So 6 times negative 1 is negative 6x, stays with it. So 6 times negative x is negative 6x. And then 6 times negative 3 is a negative 18. There we go. And example 4. This one changes gears on us because if you notice now when you start to write this one, we have 7v squared outside of our parentheses times 6v squared minus 7v plus 8. So because this guy has a variable, we're going to have to remember to multiply coefficients, so that's the numbers in front. Then add exponents of the same variables. If you notice, they're all these. So you're going to have to remember to do that with this one. So go ahead and make yourself that little bit of a note. And I'm going to have to erase mine because I need to kind of get it out of my way there so we can see it. So now 7v squared times 6v squared. So we multiply the numbers in front. 7 times 6 is 42. And then we add the exponents of our v's. So 2 plus 2 is 4, so v to the 4th. Now we distribute to our next one. We'll do 7v squared times a negative 7v. So 7 times negative 7 is a negative 49. And we have v squared here, but here we have just a v. So that's actually v to the 1st because I have one of them. So 2 plus the 1 gives me 3, so v to the 3rd. And now 7v squared times 8, so 7 times 8 is going to give us 56. And now this guy has a v squared, this guy doesn't, so I have to keep just the v squared with it. And that's our final answer. If you look, the cool part about distributing is that all of our exponents are already in descending order. We have v to the 4th, v to the 3rd, v squared, and because all of those exponents are different, we can't go any farther. That's as far as we can go. So that one right here stops at that step. So now let's see example 5. So go ahead and write out example 5. We have negative 3p times 1 minus 8p. And then minus 2p squared on the outside. Now, first thing we got to do for this one is because we have a parenthesis, it's like the order of operations. Parentheses come first, which means we're going to have to distribute the guy outside to everybody inside the parentheses. So negative 3p times 1 is going to be a negative 3p, because negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. P stays with it. Now the second part, we have to remember some more rules. So it's a negative 3p times a negative 8p. So a negative times a negative actually makes a positive 24. And then I have p to the 1st and p to the 1st. So since I have 1p and then 2p's, it's going to be 24p to the 2nd, because we add a 1 plus 1 gives us 2. And now this guy out here, if you notice, he's outside the parenthesis. So we do not distribute to him. We're just going to drop him down. There we go. So negative 2p squared. I'm sorry guys, give me 1 second. My pen's not working that great. Sorry about that. I think we're all good now. So our very last step now, because I had this term on the outside, my negative 2p squared just dropped down, I have to look to see if I can combine any like terms. So, we look around here. I have a negative 3p. I don't have any other just regular p, so he just drops down, negative 3p. And now I have a 24p squared, so positive 24p squared, and I have a minus 2p squared. So I can do that part. So 24 minus 2 is going to be a positive 22, and then your p squared just drops down. Now, one thing to kind of just remember is that right here, all we did was just combine like terms. So when we combine like terms, remember, we only add or subtract the coefficients. 24 minus 2 gave us 22. We do not change the exponents when we add or subtract, only when we multiply. So just kind of remember that rule right there. So for combining like terms, do not change exponents. There we go. Alrighty. One more example for us. Example 6. So go ahead and write out example 6. We got 3k minus 3 times 2 minus 10k. So as you write that out, I want you to kind of notice that our 3k here in front, he is not a part of the parentheses. So since he's that guy there in front all by himself, he's just going to drop down. So my 3k's in front, he just drops down. Which means my negative 3, we always use that sign in front, negative 3 is going to be what we distribute to our parentheses. So we're going to do negative 3 times 2 and get negative 6. Then negative 3 times a negative 10k. So negative times a negative makes a positive 30. And now k is the only variable there, so k drops down and stays with the 30. Now the last thing we got to check for is any like terms. So I start off with a 3k, and over here I have a plus 30k. So I can do that because they have the same variable with the same exponent. So 3k plus 30k gives us 33k. And my minus 6 has no friend, so he just drops down minus 6. And there we go. We're all set. And that's our notes for today. So we learned two big things. The distributive property, which is where we just distribute the number outside to everything inside of parentheses. And then the distributive property and combining like terms. So this one had 2 steps because we had the guys on the outside. So as far as that goes, we'll start our practice work next. So make sure you keep your practice work all nice and neat and put your notes and practice work in your math notebook. And you all have a great day. Thank you.